We just had an ice storm yesterday and a blizzard, so it's a good day, one day removed from all that winter nastiness, to see how some different switchgrass varieties are holding up for the deer. Now, I use switchgrass for mainly screening, but I do have an area that I'm using it as a cover source for the deer for bedding. So I'll go around today. I'm going to check out some Shawnee, some real world switchgrass, some cave-in rock, and some TC Tecumseh, and we'll see how they're all doing after the ice storm and the blizzard yesterday. All right, variety number one. This is Shawnee. This used to be my bread and butter when it came to switchgrass plantings. I really like the Shawnee because it had pretty good standability, and it still put out some decent height. Now here's what it looks like one day removed from the ice storm. So you can see, I mean, it's folded over pretty good. But the biggest thing you're looking for when the switchgrass goes down is how much of it is breaking like that. You can see we got some, but for the most part, I think the majority of it was able to weather the storm of the ice storm. Now we have 40-some degrees coming tomorrow, and I mean, it's in the 20s today, so the sun's hitting it. It's starting to melt a little bit, but tomorrow, I promise you, all this stuff is going to be right back up. So it did not go down for the count, but we did have some that snapped off here from the ice. So as always, I tend to deviate from the main point of my video at some point, but I just love seeing all this balsam poplar popping out here. I like diversity in my switchgrass plantings, and I welcome woody regeneration. Oh, that's not balsam poplar. Got a little red osier dogwood coming. That's even better. So I love all this woody regeneration that's coming on in this switchgrass planting, because it adds diversity and the deer use it more when I see the woody encroachment as opposed to being pure switchgrass. So bring it on. I'm not going to burn this area again. I'd love it if the woody stuff took over. Switchgrass is great to get us that quick cover or that quick screen, but over time, in areas that I want deer to actually hang out, I welcome this, the woody species coming in. Awesome. Yeah, so overall you can see, I mean, it did fold over some. Didn't go all the way down for the count, but this stuff will be back up tomorrow. So did a pretty good job getting through the ice and snow yesterday. All right, switchgrass stand number 2. This is the TC Tecumseh. I think this is, yeah, this was in its 3rd growing season this year, so at full maturity. And you can see here, I actually still got some switchgrass up at eye level. It's, I'm sure it folded over some with the ice yesterday, but this one's popping back real quick. So definitely holding its own out here. Here you can see a little bit of it just kind of tipped over a little bit, but no lodging whatsoever in this stuff. I've loved the Tecumseh. I love its versatility with being able to handle a drier site. It's put on great height for me. If this stuff was standing fully straight up, you can see, I mean, we're up in that 7-foot range. Some of it is pushing closer to 8. Yeah, like that strand right there, almost right at the top of my arm's reach. So I've loved the Tecumseh. It's been a welcome addition to the States. Came in a few years ago out of Canada. Roger Sampson, great guy, knows a ton about switchgrass. He brought that over here, and this has been a good variety for me. And it's really held up well to the Minnesota winters. I love this beautiful edge here. It's fun bringing switchgrass right into areas where you want to hold deer. This one was mainly for screening purposes. Got a nice brushy area down here. And we can see I got some edge right here. Find beds up along here. So this Tecumseh did a really nice job of screening off this area for me. But actually, this is the only spot on the farm I have found beds in the pure thick switchgrass. Generally, that is not the case. But the last couple of years when I've checked down here, just when I've been shooting videos and stuff in the summer, right in this area I've found 4 or 5 beds in the thick switch. So I'm not sure why in here they're bedding in the thick switch, and I generally don't see that anywhere else, but they like this bottom. It's nice and quiet, so that's probably a big part of it. And the deer definitely hang out down here. Let's try and do a close-up here. We'll see if we find any. That one, maybe one broken off. Not much, not as much as the Shawnee. So that's really nice to see, because again, tomorrow it's going to be popped right back up. The other nice thing about the RC switchgrasses is they tend to fly out of the ground. So when the biggest thing we're dealing with switchgrass establishment is weed competition. That's how switchgrass stands fail. Well, with these RC switchgrasses, they do pop out of the ground really fast compared to some of the older varieties. So it's nice it's kind of adds a little extra layer of insurance to your planting, because switchgrass seed is not cheap. So looks like it's doing well. A little bonus here. There's a big old bed right here. It's probably tough to see in the video. Big impression right here. I mean, look at that. We got this spruce right here, a little bit of shrubby cover and switchgrass, 3 different habitat types. And of course, it's the winter. Well, going into spring, but nasty weather yesterday, so of course there's going to be an impression right there, because it's out of the wind, and beautiful thermal cover for the deer. All right, so there's some cave-in rock. You can see it's still standing somewhat, but cave-in rock seems to always be the first one to really fold over. I mean, quite a bit of it is tipped after the ice and snow, so this cave-in rock has been my least favorite variety of switch. This stuff puts on great height. This particular cave-in rock, I've seen it close to 9 feet tall, so great height, but folds over fairly quickly, even with heavy rains. I've seen this planting right here kind of lose standability. Here's some more cave-in rock. You can see lots of snapping. I don't know. I know cave-in rock was like the industry standard forever, but I just have never been. I mean, look at all that snapped off stuff from the ice. Never been blown away by a cave-in rock. That's why before I tried Real World, before I tried the RC switchgrass, I went with Shawnee, just because it didn't snap off nearly as much, fold over nearly as much as old cave-in rock. And again, a lot of this will spring back up tomorrow, so it's not all down for the count, but you get a lot more lodging with cave-in rock than any other variety. At least I have. You can let me know your experience with it, but haven't loved the old cave-in rock. Save your money, go with something else. All right, here is Real World switchgrass. Real World switchgrass. You can see, I mean, it's folded over, but not down for the count. This stuff should pop up just fine tomorrow. I'm sure once the old sunlight hits it, be springing back up. You know, all of it's pretty well laid over from the ice. You can probably still see the ice hanging off of it. I'll get right up close there. There. So, I mean, it was a doozy of an ice storm, and it definitely folded this stuff over. But I would say not a ton of snapping. I mean, we got some here. Ice will do that. Looks like this was a tougher vein here. I got lost a bit. But there should be enough in here that I think this will pop up just fine. Now with the Real World switchgrass, it does put on great height. Let's see if I can pull some of this up here. And we're looking at that, again, around that 7-foot range. I think for most of this, some of it might have pushed into 8 as well. Another thing I've noticed with it is it got a really big seed head. I don't know, to me it looks bigger than the other varieties I've planted. See if I can show that off. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It seems a lot bushier, like a big old seed head, so I don't know if that would impact standability or not. It's generally stood pretty well during the winter months here. Again, most of this, I can see a few snapped stems, but most of this should pop up just fine tomorrow and get back, providing that good viable cover in this area. My only issue with the real world switchgrass would be the price. And when you compare real world switchgrass at 28 a pound to the RC switchgrass is at 16, I mean, that is a pretty big difference. And I do not think, just based on my observations, that there is a $12 difference in quality when you compare the RC switchgrasses to the real world switchgrass. I mean, if anything, I would say they're very comparable. Real world's been great. I mean, this is the only stand of it I have out at the farm, but it's done well. But the RC Tecumseh has done very well, and actually I got some RC Big Rock, which I think is going to be the one that would really stand against the real world, because the height that puts on is going to be very similar to what this real world switchgrass has done. So that'd be my only issue. It's very high quality seed. I remember that from when I planted it, and I enjoy their podcast, and I love what they're doing with Lester's feet. So if you were to ask me my opinion of what I would buy between the two, I would save money, because I'm on a budget and I can get, I feel like, the same effect from the RC stuff. So, but if you like what they're all about and want to support them, by all means, buy that seed. I do appreciate, like I said, some of the really good things they're doing over there. Yeah, I just one income family, so gotta look for ways to save money, and this is one of them. But definitely good switchgrass. This will all be up and looking good tomorrow. To show off a little bit more of the regen that's coming up in the switchgrass. This is some aspen that's popping right at the edge here. I love it. Love seeing that come. That's what I want up here. That's for what I'm shooting for with this particular stand of switchgrass, which is used for bedding. I want a lot of the woody regen to start popping up through here, which is awesome to see that it is. So anyway, that was the comparison today. They're all, I mean, minus the cave and rock, they're all looking pretty good, especially given we just had a real nasty, I think we got like a 1/4 inch of ice yesterday. So, I mean, with that being a consideration, like, this stuff is doing really well. So, but all looking pretty good, and it should all be looking great tomorrow. That's why switchgrass is my favorite warm season grass, because it is the one that's going to do the best in the winter. Now, if we had 3 feet of snow, it'd all be down. I'd be sitting staring at a white field right now. But when we have these milder winters, it can weather the storm. It can make it through. It can give you some cover late into the deer season and through the winter months. So everything is looking great today. All right, y'all take care. God bless.